we really do believe that Bitcoin is, and each one of these words is important. It is the first global, private, no government oversight, rules-based, critical, rules-based, digital monetary system ever. And it's a very big idea. We think that the entire crypto asset ecosystem, and we think most of the crypto assets you have heard about out there, will disappear. There will only be a few for different reasons. That ecosystem in 2030, we think, will be a $25 trillion ecosystem. Right now, it's a little over $1 trillion. We think that the biggest idea out there is...
At the 2024 conference, Cathie Wood, the visionary CEO of ARK Invest, will take center stage as a leader in innovation and disruption. She presents an original viewpoint on Bitcoin and the larger cryptocurrency scene with her unmatched knowledge, signaling a significant shift in our financial institutions. For Cathie, Bitcoin is a symbol of disruptive innovation that has the potential to upend established financial systems and bring about the era of decentralization. As she continues with her prediction, it becomes clear that she believes cryptocurrencies will be valued at an astounding $25 trillion by 2030, a sign of their increasing popularity. During the meeting, Cathie explains the fundamentals of the current technological revolution, which include blockchain technology, robots, energy storage, artificial intelligence, and genetic sequencing. She contends that these foundations will shape our future and that blockchain technology will lead the way in the widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies. Come along as we listen to Cathie Wood's insightful talk about how these revolutionary technologies are gradually establishing their influence in modern society.
As I mentioned, we're at the threshold of the most disruptive period for innovation, or caused by innovation, that the world has ever seen. And the 14 technologies that you see here are the reason why. Now, you can see those technologies, and we can talk about, George and I can talk about them afterwards. But these 14 technologies are involved in these 5 platforms. So these are 5 innovation platforms evolving at the same time. This has never happened in history. The closest we've gotten to this is the early 1900s, when 3 innovation platforms evolved at the same time. Back then, it was telephone, electricity, and the internal combustion engine. Completely transformed the world. Today, we're talking about these 5. So the 5 major platforms are robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and multi-omics sequencing. We have, in the last 20 years, we were fighting in the financial markets. Now, I know a lot of you are in the venture world, you're entrepreneurs, and you may not relate to this, but what we are fighting in the public equity markets is this notion, and have been fighting, that exponential growth, rapid growth cannot be sustained. And that is because we've been in a linear growth world for so long, where you do have a burst of activity, and then it decays down to the GDP growth rate. In the tech and telecom bubble, we first heard the expression exponential growth. Growth sustained, say 20 to 30% growth sustained for years. And many people thought that was going to happen. And that's how we got the tech and telecom bubble. We had too much capital chasing too few opportunities too soon, and it ended badly. Now, the seeds for these 5 major innovation platforms were planted during the 20 years that ended in the tech and telecom bubble, and they have been germinating ever since. They weren't ready because the technologies were not ready during the tech and telecom bubble. We didn't get the cloud until 2006. We didn't get deep learning out of ImageNet until 2012. We didn't get the other big breakthrough in artificial intelligence, transformer architecture, until 2017-18. We were not ready for prime time back then. They are ready for prime time now, and investors are running away. They're running for the hills. What are the hills? They're benchmarks.
Cathie Wood sees new technologies as having the potential to revolutionize many industries, and has predicted that these technologies would have a significant influence on global systems and practices. Regarding their future expansion, she has hope. She even predicted that in the next 5 years, the price of Bitcoin may reach above $1.5 million. ARC's study supported this forecast by pointing out that, in contrast to prior market downturns, there is a stronger hash rate, a longer-term holder supply, and more addresses holding Bitcoin. Cathie updated her estimate to $3.8 million more recently. This modification is a result of the recent Bitcoin halving event and the rising institutional usage of Bitcoin, which was fueled by the launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Keeping these new developments in mind, let's hear what Cathie Wood has to say next.
GDP growth. As you can see from this chart, through history, technology has caused leaps in GDP growth. And you can see from, I think it was 1400 to 1900 or 1500 to 1900, the world was growing about 0.6, this is real GDP growth, 0.6% per year. And then those three platforms I mentioned earlier, telephone, electricity, internal combustion engine, of course, transistor, computers, internet, then that catapulted us into a 3% GDP growth world. The consensus view going forward is that GDP is going to downshift. We completely disagree. And we believe that we should see a greater growth increment than we saw in the period, in the last period. So that was fivefold, which would take us to 15%, but we didn't want to seem completely crazy, so we put 8% out there. But, you know, it doesn't make any sense that GDP growth should slow down given all of the innovation that is evolving right now. And the other thing that makes no sense is that inflation will remain a problem. There are two camps right now on inflation. One, and many of you, Stanley Druckenmiller has been interviewed a few times, so you've probably heard him on Bloomberg or CNBC, beloved CNBC. And he's very much in the higher for longer inflation. We're in the 70s. This is intractable. Look at the wage negotiations, the UAW, the auto companies, the airlines, 10% per year, 6% per year. And our answer to that is many of these industries are going to be disrupted, disintermediated, and perhaps destroyed. And so what will happen is that those wage gains will end up crushing margins. This is not going to be pushed through into inflation. If anything, we believe that we're going to enter a period of deflation. Now, I know deflation sounds scary because of 08-09. Everyone was talking about a deflationary bust back then, and it was horrifying, and you know, it was terrifying in many ways. Because there was almost a complete financial meltdown. That's not what we're talking about right now. There's good deflation and there's bad deflation. I just gave you an example of what bad deflation will be. Companies that have not invested aggressively enough to move into the new age, and they're going to be disrupted, creative destruction. The good deflation is what I described before. Those learning curves causing cost declines, which are passed through to prices, which will cause booms, absolute booms in these technologies and in productivity. And the virtuous cycle that we're going to see is going to be astounding. Now, many of you know that CNBC has called me Crazy Cathie. And you may think that now too, but we really believe what I just said because we're doing the research. We're doing the research that very few people out there are doing because they just don't believe it. They don't believe it. And they also don't believe you should do much from the top down. And that became a kind of the mantra as I was growing up in the business.
Cathie Wood uses historical trends and technology advancements to present a compelling message about the trajectory of GDP development worldwide. She demonstrates how technological breakthroughs have historically contributed significantly to GDP development. Every major breakthrough that has fueled economic growth has been the telephone, electricity, internal combustion engine, transistor, computer, and internet. Cathie strongly rejects the widely held belief that GDP growth would slow down. She contends that it is unreasonable to anticipate a slowdown in economic development given the current world's high rate of innovation. Rather, she believes that we should expect even higher growth rates than we have seen in past times. She acknowledges that there may be a five-fold rise, but in order to avoid coming out as overly enthusiastic, she cautiously advises an 8% growth rate. In addition, Cathie rejects accepted beliefs about inflation by downplaying worries about persistent inflationary pressures. She makes the argument that disruptive technology will cause deflation, which she categorizes as either good or bad. According to her, sectors that do not adjust will experience bad deflation because of disruption, while good deflation will come from cost reductions that are passed on to customers, resulting in increases in productivity and technology. Cathie discusses the critiques she has received in her concluding statements, including being called Crazy Cathie from certain media sources. Unfazed, she restates her convictions, which are supported by extensive research and a dedication to comprehending the changing economic environment. Until next time, happy investing.